Kill him!
Fight for an honorable cause, Arkadashim. Not just your life.
If I can help others as you have helped me, I most certainly will.
And no more!
Aman Tanrım.
Please accept my apologies if I...
Al-Raziz gathered wisdom of pharmacology. Examine this.
Hadi bakalım, hadi bakalım.
For any who bring information regarding the activity.
God will have it in for you.
Should have been a dancer.
Once more, knowing no fear.
This is not good.
Say, that's a human thing. So great, some sobs and
Well,
Never.
perhaps later.
I don't want to.
Mentor, I have heard some troubling rumors.
Tell me.
We have reason to believe a rogue Orthodox deacon is planning to murder the Patriarch of Constantine.
Do we know who this deacon is?
Not yet. Clues have been sparse.
We need a name first. It would not serve our cause to eliminate every holy man between Bursa and Belgrado. Vieni, and we will ask around to see what we can learn.
What is our plan, Mentor?
The Orthodox millet in the city is too small to hide big secrets. We will ask the clergy some questions, and, if necessary, make them answer. There are rumors that the Patriarch is in danger from a rogue deacon. Does that stir any ideas?
Ah, yes. We have heard those rumors too. And the name behind them is always Cyril of Rhodes. The Patriarch cast him out some years ago for gross misdeeds. He is banished. Anathema. If you see him in the city, you can be sure he intends to do harm.
What did you learn?
Our target is Cyril of Rhodes, a banished deacon.
What the? He's got...
Hold fast. There are a number of holy men here.
I know what to do, Mentor. If I see an opportunity to eliminate him, I will take it. I have him, Mentor!
Stop! That is not our target! Brash fool! You killed an innocent man!
I have no excuse, Mentor. Forgive me.
Even if I do, many others will not.
Nor should they.
Take up his body and bring him to the shore. This is your burden to bear.
Take him now!
Run! Di ba andiamo sacrifice tutto!
For your life!
All right, this way. Commit this poor man to the sea, then meditate on your mistake.
Have it, Mentor. May the shame I feel never fade.
Not a problem. I'll be here if you need.
Truly, I am blessed this day. So why did your parents not consider me? Continue.
Never mind. I don't want to know.
Great metal work here.
Yes, and not here is it. I think. Oh.
Another madman.
You won't get away. Nowhere to run to. Push.
Get down, shit for brains!
Hurry! We must catch the man! Shit! That's it!
I don't want to die! He's getting
There! On him!
There he is!
What an eccentric man. So many dumb sops and petroleum.
Whole family! Children! Grand...
Oh, trust me to be...
Not in the face!
You there!
You have the bearing of a man who thinks rather highly of himself. But I find you a rather pathetic specimen. What do you have to say about that, Archuk?
If I had a message for you, amico, I would give it to your mother.
How dare you! We settle this now!
Stay down, and do not pester anyone again.
Surprise attack!
Are you serious?
You fell for my ruse, old man.
Do not embarrass yourself further.
I am the cudgel of Constantinie.
Have you not had enough?
Never! We will call it a draw, all right? You are quite a fighter.
As are you, if a little reckless. How would you like to put those fists to better use with the assassins?
You mean fight for a cause and not only for amusement?
I am sure you would still find some joy in it.
Evet, I believe you offend him. All right.
You better have the metal to challenge these fists. Float like a bubble.
Shame on you, Archakla.
Burono!
See you next time.
Noble patrons, here you pay extra for the added value
Buildings and visible construction sites. Clearly it was wasn't done. The park opened with bare minimum food offerings, although they promised to have more complex options later. They had no liquor license, so although one of the interactive locations was a tavern, nothing was served there. There were some other small quibbles in the initial reviews. The interactive element that was promised was very confusing to many visitors. There was no clear signage or instruction, and the actors didn't volunteer information about the quests unless you already knew how to ask about them.
And we have to ask for like a quest. Ethan, you're asking for a quest.
I have swamp toss and drowning fortresses for fighting halitosis.
You want to help people out? I don't have anything I need done.
Hello, did you manage to have a quest?
Quest? What? Slaying a dragon and saving a princess? Like that kind of quest?
That sounds like fairy tales to me.
It does.
But there were other activities like archery and some scare maze elements that could entertain teenagers just looking for Halloween thrills. Many guests were content just doing a little archery, taking in the scenery, making awkward small talk with some actors, and then heading home early. At least in terms of the online feedback I could find, most of it was pretty encouraging.
There's a lot that's not finished, but it's really cool already.
They're still under construction, so we weren't able to see everything. But what has been done was amazing.
Right now, it feels a little more like a Renaissance fair and a dress rehearsal for what's to come.
Very encouraging things.
Yeah, it's good to get in here and kind of get a feel for
You
what
are
to
not
expect
alone,
when you come.
But I think it's a work in progress right
Do
now.
not be afraid.
But I was glad I got a
Let me
quick
repay
sneak
your
peek. I feel
kindness
like
with
you
actions,
guys
Rasim.
are gonna love it.
If you would have me, you would join your cause.
I took that in mind going into this. I look forward to going back in about a month when I feel like everything's completed.
The park wasn't done, but they'll be adding a lot in the coming years. It'll be really cool then. This verdict from the locals meant that people would not be coming from out of town to check it out because it just didn't sound worth it, which honestly probably greatly diminished the potential customer base. It seemed that at this point, what little hold Evermore had ever had over the minds of the general public slipped away for good, their curiosity satisfied. But the important thing was that the park had actually opened, an obstacle which in previous years had seemed insurmountable, and it could only get better from here. Part 6. Lore. From the start, Evermore was always intended to operate seasonally with different themes throughout. It would close 4 weeks to months in between so that the park could be redecorated, and presumably so actors could be briefed on the new storylines. There is a canonical explanation for this. Evermore is meant to be a town removed from time, a liminal space surrounded by portals to many different realms and times. This means that, aesthetically, Evermore can borrow elements from multiple fantasy genres and time periods. So they can have a medieval village, a Victorian cathedral, a quaint fairy tale cottage, a hobbit house, they even have steampunk stuff. When the park opened, it had this automaton named Tip Top who would stomp around and thump on his stomach in delight. Evermore has some residents who have canonically made their home in this town, and other characters are just passing through. You, the guest, are yourself visiting through a portal from modern-day Earth, so even that works in canon. And the citizens of Evermore call the guests from Earth the World Walkers. So that's you, you're a World Walker. In each season of operation, new portals open to let in new creatures from different worlds. So in the wintertime, maybe a portal opens to a world of whimsical snow fairies. At Halloween time, maybe a portal has let in a sinister Fae King who's trying to take over. Each season has its own general, overarching story, and I'm told by fans who have a more intimate knowledge of the lore that the time setting will also change between seasons. So you might go to the past of a previous season and see different characters, or you might jump into the future on the timeline. To help keep it straight, every season has a different name. As of now, a spring season has never come to pass, but the park leadership have expressed interest in doing an operating season at that time of year. It's just never happened. The summer season is called Mythos. This was pitched as a magical midsummer lantern festival celebrating fairies, dragons, and other forms of magic. The concept art shows a massive illuminated dragon winding through town and jellyfish hanging from the trees. One year, the summer event was called Pyra, or maybe Pyrrha. It was pirate themed, but then the following year, the summer event was called Mythos again. Lore is the Halloween event. So you see, when I called this section Lore, it was actually some very clever meta humor. You didn't know it at the time, but you may laugh now that I told you. Well, that's probably long enough. Anyway, lore has two different phases. At the earlier part of the day, it's a more child-friendly Halloween event where kids can trick-or-treat for taffy from the characters and look at big pumpkins. Then as the sun goes down, it starts to get spookier and converts into a more sinister and jump scare-based experience, closer to what you might find at Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights or other scare mazes like that. All information I could find indicated that these two time periods were not separately ticketed, which I honestly find very strange because demographically they seem like two very different experiences. I'm sure some people, like myself for example, would love to go and do both, but maybe they could have utilized like a colored wristband system in order to sell cheaper half-time tickets to the people that don't want to stay all night. Aurora is the winter event, and more specifically the Christmas event. This part of Utah is overwhelmingly Mormon, so there's little motivation for businesses in this area to have secular winter activities. During Aurora, the park hosts an interactive version of A Christmas Carol, wherein you can follow the characters around if you wish. In San Francisco, there's an annual event called the Dickens Fair, so Aurora sounds like a slightly less elaborate version of that. But they have fantasy characters out too for people who want the more typical Evermore experience. The park announced that in January of 2021, the Christmas Aurora operations would make way for the winter but not Christmas themed event, Winterloom. It seemed that this event would have been more about ice, snow, magic, the northern lights, etc. But I'm afraid Winterloom would never come to be. Oh my god, I forgot my gamer lights. Were they on? Yes, they were on in the other clips. Turn on gamer lights. Yeah. Although the seasonal names for the most part repeat each year, one lore is not the same as every other lore. So it's not like if you go one year at Halloween, you have no reason to return for the following Halloween, because it will be a different experience. To be honest, I feel like the naming conventions don't make this clear enough, especially when one random summer had a different name. I could imagine unfamiliar guests just assuming that two mythoses are the same as each other. Also, if I may be subjective, I dislike most of these names. Lore doesn't evoke the vibe of a kid-friendly pumpkin patch or a teen-friendly Fright Fest, so I imagine both demographics might just overlook it entirely. Aurora doesn't evoke the idea of a Charles Dickens Christmas Carol. Mythos is fine, but if you put the word mythos on a billboard, nobody's gonna know what it is. In my opinion, until your local customer base has the faintest idea what your park is, you need to promote extremely basic season names that spell it out for them. This summer is Fairy Fest at Evermore. Come see the Summer of Dragons, Christmas Village, Winter Masquerade, Pumpkin Town, Ever Fear. It's cool to have this story about different portals opening to different realms, and it makes sense for those portals to all have their own names, but maybe those names should just be a part of in-game dialogue and literature, and then the superfans can learn them if they'd like. But the words mean nothing to a non-fan, so they should not be used in marketing, at least until the park gets enough of a foothold that locals do know these words, and then it'll mean something to some rando that's driving past a billboard. Anyway, each season had its own totally unique storyline. There would be a unique threat to the safety of the town, or an object that all the guilds are trying to get, or various characters would be running for mayor. And in some cases, the stakes were pretty high. Like, they would have wizard battles, characters could even be killed off, and then the actor would just be recast in a different role.
Buongiorno. How have you taken to your new post?
I do my best, Ezio, but it is no easy task to oversee a district in constant peril.
Peril? What has happened?
Despite our presence, the influence of Templar money is strong. Most of the merchants here are still taking bribes.
Damnazione. We should talk to the people and get a feeling for their mood. Vieni.
Most of the merchants who have sold their allegiance are Greek. And I am not ashamed to say that I understand why.
God save me! Stay your hand on Bendy!
You are a better citizen than most, Effendim. We cannot expect men to find any comfort in having been conquered. But just as they have a right to demand dignity from the Ottomans, the Byzantines have an obligation to keep the innocent safe from harm. This requires a careful balancing act, and we should not be surprised if we stumble from time to time.
Let me run away! Please! diavolo! Just leave me in peace, please!
What's got into him?
May the Father of Understanding guide and keep you.
This is an impressive take for a single day.
What business is it of yours how quickly I make my money? I take care of my neighbors, and they take care of me.
This is impressive. How did you manage it?
How? By honoring my neighbors and not selling out to those Ottoman usurpers. Now please take your insinuations elsewhere.
Bless you, brother. May God shine his radiance upon you.
A large sum for him as well. Salute, amico. Forgive me for asking, but the insignia on this chest, what does it mean?
That? It is the seal of Theodoros Komnenos.
And he is your benefactor.
Benefactor? Oh, he is my friend, my countryman, and one of the wealthiest men in this district despite our new masters.
Of course. Grazie. What do you think? Shall we pay Theodoros a visit?
I do not want to start a fight we cannot justify, Ezio.
Nor do I. And if we can find a way to avoid bloodshed, we will. But if the Templars are behind this, that will give us few options.
You'll regret
Quite fit for an old timer.
Why? Never. I don't want to remember.
Isn't that dangerous?
Put the fear of
Stop! Get there!
Stay close.
What, 10,000 actually is not enough? Did he actually say that? Is he mad? Does he think I waste money? Far be it for me to question how these Templars work. But I have been hemorrhaging money ever since I came into their companies. Find me a quid, quickly! I believe I will write these men a sternly worded missive, packed with subtle barbs and tawdry insinuations.
Theodoros, buongiorno.
Huh? Who are you?
You have been quite free with your money lately, and the assassins would like to know what your generosity has purchased.
Assassins? You? Both of you?
Calm, Effendi. We mean no harm.
I don't want to die. Please, spare my troubled soul. The Templars have corrupted me. I'm a good man at heart.
Keep watch over this one. When he has regained his sanity, we will talk.
Funny clothes.
I spent the last month.
Rash man.
Walking among us. Terror spreads through.
Son of a... Hey, some respect for your fellow man, no? Jävla biret! Jävla Olsen! Jävla Olsen!
Move like a cat.
Is he been drinking?
Capturing, killing.
honor, mentor.
Mentor, honored to see you.
A bit old to be living about, no?
There are a handful of dedicated locals who try to chronicle all of these story developments, either through text in Discord servers or through capturing footage of as many major story beats as they can find. I can see that a fan wiki has been created, but nearly all of the pages are still blank templates, although I did stumble across some kind of intense Google Doc shared by the mods. Apparently in past seasons of Evermore, the park would hand out an ever-changing newspaper summarizing what guests had missed. This is a good enough concept, although I question how useful some of this information would be to an average guest, but honestly I wonder why there isn't more of an online guide being maintained by the park. You'd think they could put character profiles up on the website, or at least summarize the major story arcs so people considering whether or not to go can know what they're getting into. I have heard from former employees that at one time characters shot little introductory videos. The idea being that when guests bought tickets digitally, they would then be emailed a randomized video so they could at least get to know one character before they showed up. And then there's kind of a connection, like if they see that character in the park, it's like, oh, I know this guy! But for whatever reason, that system was never implemented, and these alleged videos remain unreleased. I think it would at least behoove them to put that kind of content on the official YouTube channel. I do also, if we're being honest, find the story pacing a little odd. It seems like a little too much of the experience depends on being at the right place at the right time on the right date. In theory, this could be a good thing in that all guests would have a unique experience. But all guests having a unique experience is only really cool if each of those experiences is roughly equivalent in quality. As it stands now, it seems like you can either come on the right night when there's a wizard battle throwing fireballs back and forth, or the wrong night where nothing exciting happens at all. I already expressed my intent to go to the park, right? So I wonder which kind of night I will experience. It seems like a large portion of the clientele are families who are only visiting once and may never return, So it feels important to make sure that every night has some kind of standout moment. The closest equivalent theme park experience I can think of is the Ghost Town Alive event at Knott's Berry Farm. For a couple summers, the park would staff actors to live in the park's cowboy town. They would similarly interact with guests, give them tasks, and convey major story beats with a newspaper. Well, yeehaw! I have it right here. I keep it in my big binder, theme park maps. A normal thing to have. A big difference is, in Ghost Town Alive, the actors are canonically meant to be ghosts. They don't know that they're ghosts, but that's what they are, and they're stuck in like a ghost time loop. That's why every day of the event is Founders Day. Every day the townsfolk are electing a sheriff and trying to stop the same group of bandits. Every day has a gunfight at the same time, and every day has a celebratory Founders Day hoedown. And your little errands can influence the story, so different days have different outcomes for various characters. And then there were a couple random days that were made special for the guests. Like, instead of walking in for the climactic confrontation, the bandits would ride in on the park's real steam train. But if you weren't there on that particular day, it wouldn't feel like you had had a lesser experience. You can go on any given day and both see the ramifications of the things you've done with the characters and feel like you've seen all the major beats of a story. There's one night of Evermore's story that's widely talked about on the fan groups. Most people refer to it as the night Evermore went dark. This was a night during lore, so there had been dark creatures threatening Evermore through all of the storyline, but it had finally come to a head. So on this one night, about a half hour before closing time, the creatures all rushed the town, storming into once safe areas. The characters all started screaming and running, hurrying.
Dear God, be careful. Respect for your fellow man, Joe.
Don't be healed. Well
Guests out of the park back out through the portal they had entered from, so the front gate. And then once all the guests were outside, the gates were closed. Frequent visitors were thrilled to be there on a night that something exciting had happened. But first-time guests were, in some cases, confused and angry. Supposedly, complaints from some guests prompted management to reopen the gates because they couldn't just close the park early, but when they did reopen, it was to an eerily empty town. This left a cool mystery for the following week. What had happened to everybody? Would they be okay? Again, a tantalizing story for guests who already knew they were returning next week, but kind of a frustrating and confusing end of the night for one-time visitors who had no idea what was going on. I also think it's worth noting that story beats of that intensity, which are unprecedented and happen without prior warning, are possibly an unwise choice for a family park. It seems that a lot of parents, whether they're supposed to or not, do let their kids roam unsupervised within the park, and this is not discouraged by park management. So if everyone is suddenly booted outside, I could see that being a real safety issue. Also, it might have occurred to you that hanging out in a crowded venue and suddenly having everybody screaming and running and telling you to get out, and you don't know why, might evoke imagery of real disasters and acts of mass violence which have happened at real entertainment venues. So I can imagine being quite alarmed if you're at the park for the first time and happen to not know the minutia about the B-plot brewing with the Fey King and his evil minions. Anyway, moving on to another story element, we have guilds. Different characters in the park belong to different guilds, which guests can help through quests or even join. These are roughly similar to the character classes in Dungeons & Dragons. I tried really hard to find a definitive list somewhere of all the guilds, but it's pretty confusing. Evermore doesn't really maintain their own guide, and guilds also seem to be introduced and then eliminated throughout different seasons. But anyway, here's the list that I've got. The Knights, the Rangers and Archery Guild, the Pirates, the Dwarves. These guys mostly just play covers of popular music. the Blackheart Hunters. These are the most unique guild. They're basically like a group of Van Helsing-style monster hunters. Old seasons appear to have had a Bard's Guild, but I think they no longer exist. At least one season had a guild called the Wolves of Winter. My impression is that this was sort of like a barbarian guild.
Lead these two trials. And one final one, following me. And you will be part of the battle.
I think they don't exist anymore either. There are elves, but I don't think they're a guild, and some characters called the Rangers the Elven Rangers, but none of the Rangers that I saw seemed to be elves. It seemed like they were two different groups, so I don't know what to make of that. The Dragon Riders, in previous seasons called the Dragon Trainers. There are fairies, and some guests say they've been given quests to join the Fairies Guild, but this might have been improvised by the actors. It doesn't seem like this was a guild that was ever recognized by the park. Unclear. There appears to be one wizard just kicking around, one guy, so I think that's not a guild. And lastly, I heard there were witches, but it seems that there aren't anymore. And that's all of them that I'm aware of. Again, would love some kind of guide or glossary curated by the park. I did my very best. It seems that in some storylines, the guilds are at odds with one another, and in others, they're just coexisting without incident. I think for the most part, this is meant to function like the Hogwarts houses, like it's just kind of fun to belong to a club. And now I think you've got the basics. You've at least got what I knew going in. So from there, the story of Evermore was ever changing, ever evolving with each season. And you're probably wondering what else changed. The answer is not much. Yeah, remember at opening, all those people that were saying they were excited to see Evermore when it was more finished? Just as soon as management had gotten through what they called Phase 2 of construction, well, Phase 2 never seemed to come. Some of those unsightly chain link fences around construction sites came down, but not because construction was finished. The unfinished buildings were just out in plain sight, the paths to them usually blocked off by sawhorses. There were some uncompleted buildings that just needed their interiors finished, so a couple of those were polished up and open to guests. A miniature train ride was installed to circle the park, and they opened up an affiliated themed restaurant just outside the gates. The plants began to grow in and give the park a more filled-in look, but it seemed that the buildings that were incomplete at the park's grand opening would stay that way. Part 7. Plague comes to Evermore. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but in 2020, the US was hit by something called the coronavirus pandemic, forcing a lot of people to stay inside and some businesses to close indefinitely. Many chain restaurants were able to weather the storm of the pandemic, but it was a killing blow to a lot of independent businesses. You can only imagine the kind of setback it would be for a newly opened theme park still trying to recoup its construction costs. This was also a crushing blow to Void VR. Virtual reality experiences are not an essential service, so unsurprisingly, locations were required to close. Surprisingly, for much of the pandemic, Disney's 2 theme park adjacent shopping districts did stay open for shopping and outdoor dining, but the VR experience entailed walking through narrow cubicles, touching things, and, oh yeah, wearing an enclosed helmet on your entire head that other people have been wearing and breathing on all day. Even if they had been legally allowed to operate, I can't think of any number of bleach wipes that would make people want to take on that activity in a pandemic. So even as its neighboring shops were open to customers and foot traffic, the 2 Disney Void locations would remain shuttered. And oh, it gets worse. The Void fell behind on rent payments, but more painfully, they fell behind on licensing payments to the Walt Disney Company. Out of all of Brett Schneider's ventures at the time, the Void had always seemed like the most robust and the safest bet. But now, with the unexpected obstacle of the pandemic, the Void was struggling and things were looking grim all around. So let's look at our timeline as best as I can pin it down. June 2020, Utah Business reports that Evermore Park faces 5 separate lawsuits from unpaid contractors, each owed between $28,000 and $400,000. July 2020, Disney posts a notice of eviction and a termination notice of the licensing agreement on the windows of the downtown Disney Void location. Since the shopping districts are open to the public, these legal letters are immediately photographed and posted online for speculation and ridicule. August 2020, the last update to the Void website appears. It notifies customers that locations will remain closed indefinitely. Guests with pre-booked tickets are refused refunds. Instead, they are instructed to rebook and promised a free credit for an additional experience. That same month, Evermore Park launches a GoFundMe to try to rescue the park. If you read far enough to see what the funds would be used for, it mentions things like developing new merchandise, building new structures on the property, launching a podcast? Guys, what do you think it costs to launch a podcast? I mean, yes, that could help with publicity, so like why not? But you could have done that at any time, and you don't need $100,000 from your fans to get it started. And I'm not an accountant, but doesn't it seem like any funds raised ought to be paying those outstanding debts to contractors first? October 2020, the Void signage is completely dismantled from both Disney locations. Meanwhile, the Vegas location is taken over